I'm Wendy Orr, and I want to talk to you about Cuckoo's Flight, which we were going to introduce at the Team Salon. Cuckoo's Flight takes place about 4,000 years ago in the Minoan era in the island of Crete, so in the Aegean Bronze Age. I've been fascinated by the Minoans for years. I think because in many ways they seem to be more like us than many people through history. They had a very sophisticated society, really elegant, just exquisite art. And there are hints that they were a more equal and peace-loving society than many that came after them for thousands of years. But it was a very different world. And for one thing, life was very short. You're unlikely to live past about 35 because you didn't have antibiotics and vaccinations and all the modern surgery that helps us out. And they had many, many gods who looked after different parts of nature and who needed different gifts. And the gifts might be a dance, or they might be olive oil, and occasionally they were human sacrifice. So what intrigues me in any story is how people react in different situations. And we still have the same feelings as people did 4,000 years ago. People in different places around the world, we all have the same feelings, but we have different beliefs and different experiences, and we are taught different things. And so that's what I love exploring. And for me, history just makes it a lot more interesting. And so the first lines in the book are, if she had stayed to load the kiln as she should have, she'd never have seen the ship. Mama said the ship still would have been there, so everything had to happen the way it did. But that's not true. Clio saw it, and the world changed. And then I'm going to jump to a slightly different part. Grey girl, misty as the morning sea, dappled like a pebbled beach, her heart beating with Clio's since they were raised, girl and foal, on the milk of the mare when Clio's mother had none. Dada tells of lifting a babe too young to stand to the foal's back so they could learn each other's warmth. And by the time they were 2, they moved as one. Mama always afraid, saying that horses wild as stags in the hills had no place in their lives, but couldn't forbid, because Dada's gods say they're the heart of his. Clio wishes the goddess would see the same for her, but the great mother stays silent, except in the link she forged between horse and girl, so that even that day when a snake wriggled out from a rock through the mare's front legs, so she shied and reared, throwing Clio hard to her knees, pain spearing into her hips so fierce she thought she would die, her mind closing in blackness. Grey girl wouldn't let her drown in that dark, wouldn't leave her side, standing guard on the path, trumpeting a neigh of terror till Petros the herder came, and then Dada, running all the way from town and carrying Clio home as if she were a babe. She remembers Grey girl's call and seeing Dada's face drain to the color of ash, but nothing of the moon that followed, till she heard Mama weeping. 3 daughters I've lost so far. Can the great mother not leave me one? And her grandmother's voice, calm and sure, the girl will live. Her life will not be the one we planned. But when life changes, so must we. And she is strong enough to do that. And I think every book has to draw a bit on the author's own story and the author's thoughts and dreams and every crazy idea that goes through your head. But for me, horses were very important when I was a kid and even as an adult. And a few years ago, my sister went on a riding trip across Mongolia. And I thought, wow, would I love to do that? What an absolutely fantastic thing. And so I'd started the story by then. And I realized that the story was not what I had planned. It was not a story about a girl who would rather spend time with her horses than working in her mother's workshop. It was a story about a girl whose life is changed dramatically by an accident. For me, it was a car accident. And although I can walk now and walk without a stick and walk for several kilometers, I can't ride. And I had come to terms with this, but when my sister did that riding trip, I realized that's why this story isn't coming to life for me. And this book was a long one for me. It was 2.5 years of writing. And I realized Clio is disabled and she can't ride anymore. And so she has to not so much just come to terms with it. She has to learn how to make her life now. Who is she? And is she the same person? And even when she feels like she's the same person, do other people see her as the same? So I wanted to explore some of the things that I've explored in my own life over and over again, and explored in a really different situation. And so that is how I came to write it. And I was lucky enough to get a grant to go to Crete to research Swallow's Dance, which is the book before it. And I'd actually just finished Dragonfly Song when I went. And so I was lucky enough to explore some of the archaeological sites with an archaeologist friend, and to see some of the amazing fact that I was walking on rocks that had been laid down as a road by people 4,000 years ago. I mean, how incredible. And when I stood on a soft clay floor of a room, the ruins of a room, and Sabina, the archaeologist, said this was the potter's studio, and that's why the floor is soft. There is still powdered clay there when the rest of it is all rocky. I knew that my girl had to be a potter, even though Clio, the granddaughter of the first potter, isn't so crazy about it, because she has to work out her own way. And then the invaders come, as they truly did. And what can she do when she walks with a crutch, can't ride her horse? How can she help protect her town against the invaders? In fact, I said to my publisher once, I think the book's called How Two Girls and Their Horses Save a Town and Stop the War. So you'll have to read the book to find out how that happens. And I'd also just like to say that that's the magic of books, is we get to live in somebody else's shoes for this short period, live a life we would never, ever experience, and maybe find out a bit more about ourselves. And the magic of a bookshop is that it's a building crammed with these characters, stories, lives, and experiences. And there's a magician called a bookseller there who can help guide you to the experiences that you might want to live for that short time and enrich your life. And what better thing could there be in a time of lockdown? So happy reading, everyone. And I hope we'll see you soon.